Hello, governors. Thanks so much for coming along to this National Day of Climate and Nature CPD.
I'm Meryl Batchelder up in the northeast of England, a trained secondary school science teacher and now regional lead for the Ministry of Eco-Education.
And my name's Paul. I'm the education lead for the Ministry of Eco-Education. So what we've got is about 10, 15 minutes of what we're hoping going to be really direct, simple training for you to be able to inspire you to take some next steps. What we also wanted to do was just mention that at the end of last academic year, we hosted a great teacher celebration event, which really highlighted the wealth of knowledge, experience, people in the climate and nature education space. And we just wanted to emphasize how rich a tapestry that is. And I know, Meryl, you're really well connected with lots of the people and organizations happening as well.
Okay, are we ready to go?
We are. Let's go. So we wanted to start with the why. And the first why is from a moral imperative. We're all human beings. We all live on planet Earth. We're all part of society. What's going on in terms of the climate and nature crisis, Mel?
Okay, so we have got some serious issues, and these issues are going to impact young people more even than they're impacting people of my age. So we have an image here, and it shows the two sets of stripes. The top set of stripes, the blue to the red, are called the warming stripes. And Ed Hawkins from Reading University created these as a visual way to really, show the impact of what's happening with our climate. The blue stripe on the far left is around about 1970. The red stripe on the far right is it's about 50 years later. So approximately over my lifespan, this. And you can see it's gone from blue to, slightly into pinks and now into deep reds. The planet has warmed about 1.5 degrees already. 2024 was the warmest year on record. 2025 summer looks like it's probably the hottest in the UK. You can see that you can feel the change in our classrooms as they get hotter and hotter. So young people who are entering year one now or early years now are being born in this really deep red zone. And now it's just going to get warmer until we stop burning fossil fuels, until we change our agricultural practice. It's going to get hotter. So young people need to be prepared for how to manage that heat and understand how we can help, how we can be part of the change. The bottom set of stripes are called the biodiversity stripes, set up by Miles Richardson, again from about 1970 to the present day. And when I was born, it was a lush green and pleasant land, shall we say. And over the years, farming impacts, climate, pesticide use has meant our biodiversity has declined. And it's seriously declined. The latest data is really quite shocking. So again, young people born today are seeing a much greyer planet than they would have done 50 years ago. And I think these stripes just help us visualize how serious it is and what that trend is like.
Yeah, and we've got some warming stripes that we take to schools, and we've seen really great ways of using these in the classroom. And I really like that illustration as well over the top of it. Helps to
I know,
to
it's like makes
communicate
it.
it to the younger audience, doesn't it? Yeah. So just in terms of people, if they wanted to di dive deeper into this, we've got Meryl's made these with Docu B series, which explores things like the state of the climate report, the state of nature report, and these are again quick snapshots to go even deeper into some of those numbers to understand what is happening to our planet now. The climate that you grew up in doesn't exist anymore.
And it's really, the science is really complicated. And so, the scientists have been talking about this for many years, but the science is complicated. And when you actually look at the data, so all I try and do is make it a little bit more simple to understand the big numbers, what they mean, and, what we can do to take action in schools.
And then, as Meryl referenced as well, we increasingly are getting these headlines. The Met Office just recently said that the summer is likely to be the warmest on record. That's one of a handful of kind of headlines from the Met Office that have come out over the summer. We've experienced that, we've felt it. It might be that the conversations you have with people is, oh, how great the summer was, but it's completely out of the norm, or it is our new norm in the sense that it's getting warmer and warmer, and that's something that we're all living with and experiencing, and we do understand.
Indeed.
And
So,
then.
yeah, so people don't talk about it very much. And actually, when you do ask people, do you care? Do you want to take action? Internationally, the level is 80% of people want to take action, they want their governments to take action on climate to make the situation better. In the UK, it's over 86% of people. So whatever you see in the press that, it's a no-no and the green transition isn't going to be affordable and all the rest of it, 86% in the UK want action on climate. So, I think we're part of education is vital to make sure, not only our students in our classrooms are aware of that everybody wants to take action, but also in our communities, in our wider school community, that
Mm.
we really, that, and this was taken from the People's Climate Vote 2024, the world's biggest climate survey. So, these are facts from the United Nations.
Yeah, and I think it's that sense of you might think that you're an outlier if you're taking action, but actually this is a really common attitude. There is the Climate Majority Project, which is also communicating this sense that actually we do all agree this is the common attitude, but it's because we don't talk about it, we're not open about these sorts of things
And it's driving decision making. So 69% say that climate is impacting big decisions in their lives, whether to not to have children. If you think that the planet is, not changing fast enough to keep up with, this human induced climate change, actually that is a huge decision. And even in my lifestyle, I'm not flying anymore, and I try and grow fruit and vegetables on my in my garden, to try and do my part, so all decisions in the long term will be climate induced decisions or
What
climate
we're
related.
saying is, if you as a teacher are not engaging with this, it's a big chunk of people's thinking and part of their lives. If you in your teaching are not engaging with this, that's a big part that you're missing out on. And so it's important to sort of weave this throughout. The next why might be, and we think of it as more of a secondary one, we think the moral is the beginning, and then it's, well, okay, what's expected of us professionally? And so increasingly there is more and more expected from the Department for Education. Meryl, there's three key initiatives, isn't there,
There's
that the
three key
government is
initiatives that
doing?
the Department of Education, so they have a climate and sustainability strategy. It is being reviewed, and we know the curriculum's also being reviewed, but the main three strands that can provide help. Climate ambassadors can come into your school. If you sign up with STEM Learning, there's the Climate Ambassador Hub, and local people from business or charities, from other educators can come into your school to help. There is the Sustainability Support Hub, which provides resources. I prefer ours, but hey, I'm biased. And then there are the
Education Nature Park,
education,
led by
yes,
Natural
National
History
Education,
Museum and the RHS. Yeah,
National
those are the three.
Education Nature
And
Park.
then there are, other kind of periphery, other things in the
Yeah,
space
Let's
as
Go
well,
Zero is a huge
with
one,
particularly
helping.
climate action plans as an emphasis for people to have this pathway to net zero. But I think what we would say is that curriculum really is the core of what we think. It's the fundamental of what a school's doing. It's the day to day. It's the thing that every young person experiences whilst at the school. And so we really wanted to emphasize this sense that there is like a jigsaw. We've put together this diagram that helps kind of bring it to life. That it's all kind of interlinked, it's all complementary, and there's this wealth of organizations who are often providing free support. And it's the sort of thing that I know teachers struggle in terms of having the capacity, so many different priorities, but there really is no excuse not to accept this sort of support and help. There are people out there
Well,
with yeah.
the government's strategy says that all schools should have a sustainability lead by the end of 2025. So this term, effectively, if you haven't got one already, your school is expected to have one. And as the curriculum changes, as the DfE address some of these gaps in the curriculum, it's likely that role is going to be really quite important to help teachers across the school take sustainability and put it into the ethos of the school. That should be driven down by senior leadership as well.
Yeah, it's about having a kind of a whole school strategy approach and for it to be a shared responsibility as well, because I'm sure people watching this might be they think of themselves as the kind of one person in the school who's got that responsibility, but actually it's something that every teacher should be considering.
And even up to governors, local authorities. There's a bigger picture,
Yeah.
being drawn out, and the landscape is changing. But definitely changes is happening now.
And I think the other thing that this diagram illustrates is that sense that we think of sustainability in its broadest sense, that yes, carbon and climate action plans is part of that, but equally the curriculum. And then also to be truly sustainable, you need to engage with the local community. And you might be doing that, but not considering it as part of sustainability. It could be through a wildlife trust, school, visits. It could be inviting in the local community. But the other piece as well is that forest schools and outdoor learning. There's been this growth over the last few years in interest around forest schools, but also weaving that throughout the rest of the curriculum and understanding that it should be part of everything.
There's a huge network of people providing support into schools to try and, green your school, in terms of your school grounds, in terms of purchasing, in terms of the curriculum, loads and loads of support. And one of the things we do as the Ministry of Eco-Education is try and rationalise that and make it more simple.
Yeah, so what we've done as a group of teachers with kind of different interests and specialisms and age groups and all those sorts of things is share our experience and bring it together by finding all of the different free resources and opportunities from hundreds of organizations. And rather than just being a website that is a sort of database of those and sort of allows you to go and explore them yourself, we've tried to add value by weaving them together into series of what we call learning journeys framed by big questions. And we use 7 key themes to help try and give a bit of a structure to what can be a quite a vague statement around sustainability. What do we really mean by sustainability? So we've got these 7 key themes. And actually, Meryl, there's a bit of a hierarchy to them, isn't there?
There is. So the seven themes are energy, food, nature, society, transport, waste, and water. Now, the ones that impact, the main areas of those that impact our climate the most severely are energy, where we get our energy from, our food, how we make our food and grow our food, and also transport, how we get around. Actually, if you look at your climate action plan for school, a lot of those impacts will be down to transport, how people are travelling around to get to school and also on school trips. And so if we tackle those three, that's great. But it's bigger than that. We know that, water, waste, nature and society have huge implications for not only our own well-being but also our role in society, and our impact on society, our impact on our environment. So there is a little bit of a hierarchy, but they're all, those 7 themes. It's the thing that pulled me into the Ministry of Eco-Education right at the very start. Was one of the questions was, what does it take to make a cup of tea? And actually, it's hugely complicated when you start to break it down. A great question to ask young people, and one that actually in the energy section, because of transport and because of international trade and things, but it impacts on all of them.
So the Ministry of Eco-Education framework, informed by the Green Britain Group, by Dale Vince, lots of the businesses who are making a Green Britain right now. So that's kind of informing that structure and helping us to kind of create that. But the key thing then is there's a website with loads of learning journeys framed by big questions, so a series of lessons. They're designed to be flexible, inspiration for you to be able to take a few activities, to take a whole question, a whole series of lessons. It's up to you, but it's there to get you thinking more and reflecting on your teaching.
Absolutely, and it's hugely flexible, so you can just dip in and out. You don't need to do a whole series. The series of big questions all have about 8 different lessons below them, but you can just pick and choose. And we link out to resources that are incredible. We haven't created all of the individual resources. We link out to the wildlife trusts or the RSPB or organisations who really know their field. And so we've built lessons, a whole program, a scheme of work around some fantastic resources for you to use in your classrooms.
Okay, well, governors, step
Step
one.
one. Step one, we have, there is a wealth of information available to governors. Now, obviously, in a role of governors, there might not even be a sustainability governor in your group, in your school. But there should be a sustainability lead now. And there's a network that can help you. So the Sustainability Governor Network, you can join it. You can find out what's going on in other schools across the country. And it'll describe, what role you should take about influencing what happens in school, because actually above the head teacher, the governors are really fundamental in driving that school ethos and making sure that young people are learning what they need to do, but also that the school estate is becoming more sustainable. And it saves money for starters. If you start reducing the energy costs, you can reduce some of the financial burden from bills.
So make sure that in the governing structures, in your meetings, that sustainability is a kind of standing point that is always discussed. And yet, what we're saying is there needs to be someone, it might not be a governor that is solely sustainability, it might be an aspect of their responsibility, but it's important now that the climate nature crisis is considered through that governing lens. Step two, there is another network called.
As it is. So you can find out more and widen your network because, and let's face it, none of us can be experts in all of this. So use your networks, join in, find out what's going on, and think about what can go on in your school.
So this one is the
So the
National
National
Governors
Governors Association. This is the
Association.
National
Yeah.
Governors Association. Yep.
Who
Um,
have a support sort of documents. There's a few of these sorts of things. They also have hosted some events in the past. They've got recordings, but again, you can kind of gain expertise and knowledge from other governors who already are doing these things around sustainability and exploring it. So sort of reach out and access either through
Find
the website.
find out what's already going on in your school. You might be impressed with what's going on, or you might be slightly shocked that there isn't an awful lot of sustainability education and changes going on in the school, and that you can actually really influence and be a positive influence on what's going
Yeah,
on.
this leads really well on to step three, that sense that there is an expectation from the Department for Education that schools have climate and nature and sustainability in the school's ethos, kind of in the structures across the school. There's this great diagram that we like using from UCL's Climate Action Unit that really helps show that holistic, kind of all-encompassing aspect of kind of how schools can engage and what they can do. There are, though, some more kind of expectations, Meryl, from the DfE.
So the DfE has said that all schools, all educational settings should have a climate action plan and a sustainability lead in terms of on the school staff by the end of 2025, which is coming up really quite quickly. We know that the DfE is changing some bits of advice and strategies and policies or whatever, and the curriculum, but definitely there should be a sustainability lead before the end of the academic year, and you should have a climate action plan, and not just produce one and let the staff just file it. It needs to be monitored, and actually that's probably the role of the governors, is to start monitoring a little bit about what's going on in the latest climate action plan.
So we've included a reference to this diagram from the Church of England, who have got this kind of really helps understand how climate action plans feed through to all the other structures. But from governance perspective, you've got things like your annual resilience statement, your net zero governance guidance that feeds into that. There are other documents and reports that sustainability needs to be mentioned and referenced for it to kind of permeate the whole school. And it's the job of governors, obviously, to hold the senior leadership in the school to account and to ensure that this is part of everything that they're doing.
I've always been hugely impressed by school governors because it's a labour of love in a way, but the young people in that school will benefit from any help that you give the senior leadership team.
Yeah, and we've got great examples of how schools are really leading in these areas and how governors are helping feed that and nudging them along. So don't feel like, yeah, you'd be the only one. We can definitely help you on your way.
And if you, yes, absolutely, get in touch with us if you want to have a little bit of support for your school from the Ministry of Eco Education.
Cheers.
Bye.